Hi guys, Ronnie here and welcome to the workshop with another SL8 upgrade. While the bike still isn't in its final form, it's getting there step by step. So I've made a few changes now that actually made a big improvement to the bike. So let's just have a few words about that. So unfortunately I still don't have the derailleur parts or the carbon TI rotors that I'm really waiting for, neither the final crank setup, but there are a few key things that I already have. So firstly, I got my Carbon Works cages back from Simon, who kindly repaired the two units that I had, which I unfortunately managed to break with my t-shirt being snagged into them while washing. So I didn't have to buy new ones. It was a really fair price for the repair, so I really appreciate that. Big thanks to Simon from Carbon Works. And yeah, the other big change that we have here now is the crank setup. So crank and bottom bracket, should I say also. So the bottom bracket is now a black, thankfully, CeramicSpeed coated dub unit, dub BSA standard, because of the SRAM crank. More on that later. So previously I had a gold SLF unit. There was nothing wrong with that apart from the fact that I planned that for a different bike, and gold, that was just a big clash with this frame, just as the ceramic, the Air Coach Atom chainrings in gold. That was not a good visual at all. So that's all gone. And in place of that is, as I said, the CeramicSpeed coated BSA dub and a pair of SRAM red cranks in 170. Just because this is what I had in stock, and I have to say there's no real problem that I have with 170 cranks opposed to 165 that I used earlier. I get no issues in my hip whatsoever, so yeah, I find that it's a good solution. And I don't think it's necessary to go much shorter than that at this point. The reason I went for the Quarq is, well, there was a bit of a swapping of the cranks on this bike. So at first I had the rotor setup that I've told you about. I was planning to use the 165 Aldo carbons that I had. Not really a big fan of those for a couple of reasons. So firstly, it's the Q factor, which I have to widen because of the recessed pedal washer. That's the main issue for me there. Yeah, that one I had with the Tarmac NG Superlight version, or the SL version. So that was a very neat setup, but then I had a customer who really needed those in a rush. So I sold the carbon cranks, got the out-through standard aluminum ones, and they don't really do justice to this bike, and I also needed them for another build. So again, I took those off and wanted to wait out my final crank version with a set of standard Shimano Ultegra cranks that I also had here with Wahoo powering pedals. However, in this combination, the bike wasn't very comfortable at all because this bumped up my Q factor to a level I was not happy with and just caused me some issues. So then I had to then go back to the drawing board again, and that's where I stuck back on the good old Quarq D4 that I've been using very successfully for a few seasons in the past before I went on the Power to Max. So really it's back to basics in this setup. It's just a shame that they no longer sell the higher end Dub SL version of these cranks with the non-branded or the neutral Quarq branding version. So I have the red ones there. So that's a bit of a clash still, but yeah, visually it's okay, I would say. So the Quarq D4, well, it's considerably heavier than the Power to Max SL. It's a very reliable unit. As I said, I've been using it for years. Good accuracy, good precision. It's also come really far down in price compared to previous years, so it's an excellent option, even if you're in the budget, I would say, because yeah, it also lasts very long. And since it's the D4 version, it accepts the Shimano chainrings, which are a good thing when you're on a Shimano drivetrain, because that's how you get the best possible shifting. And yeah, it's a set of 5440 Dura-Ace chainrings as per standard. The one slight niggle is that this D4 is designed for the 9100 series chainrings, so it's not a perfect match with this setup. So yeah, as you can see, the shaping doesn't really blend well. But yeah, I'm willing to live with that. It's all black, so that's so visible, and it's temporary anyway. So yeah, this is what we have for the cranks. I'm super happy with the part, I'm super happy with the crank length, and yeah, it's actually quite a light setup because of the light crank arms, so that's also fine. And yeah, the added benefit over the rotors is that the rotors use 30mm spindles, which means that the spindle goes directly into the inner race of the bearing without any intermediary interface. And usually this is a problem in terms of tolerancing, so we get fits that are usually too loose, which leads to creaks and the spindle being marked from the bearing race. So it's not an ideal solution. And the DUB, on the other hand, uses the same dimension of the bearing, reduced by a plastic sleeve to 28.99mm diameter, and this plastic interface takes away all of the creaking and all of the problems associated with the interface and the interference fit. So yeah, I think it's a superior solution when it comes to crank spindle diameter. Obviously, I didn't want to go to 24mm steel because that's just heavier and less stiff, so it makes some sense. And with BSA, you can get away with the large spindles anyway. So overall, it's a very good and robust setup. The cranks also mean that now I don't have to use the power pedals, which is great because I have shorter titanium spindles on these. And actually, I've also found some titanium stepping plates for the Wahoo Aero pedals. I've been using these before, so they were not brand new. I think I took them off from a previous set of pedals that I was selling with the bike, so I had these laying around and I just installed them because this is going to be a pretty lightweight build, so why not go all in. They say around, I don't know, 10 grams or so. It's not much, but yeah, if I had it already in the shelf, I installed it. One thing I did have to remove though is the K-edge chain catcher, and that's because it interferes with the shaping of the bottle cage, and I wasn't too happy with that. But first, I didn't want to weaken the chain catcher by, making an opening in it where it collides with the bottle cage. And secondly, I've been using these drive frames quite a lot, and a lot of my clients use them, and no one is really having problems with chain drops anymore if it's properly set up. So yeah, I figured I might just take that risk. It's not aftermarket chainrings anyway, so should be okay even without the chain catcher. So yeah, most of the changes are actually concentrated in this area. I've also now installed the ceramic or cycling ceramic brand bearings in the rim hub, so front and rear are all ceramic. But as I said, I'm also trying to relace the front rim to a carbon TI hub again, just to match the rear. So that's maybe a future upgrade for winter. And yeah, another change we have is in the rear mag. There was nothing wrong again with the SLF cage, but this year, I think it was, maybe late last year, CeramicSpeed came out with the new oversized pulley wheel systems that they have. and I've been putting them on some clients' bikes, and I was really impressed by the redesign because the previous version was really quite flimsy and not very durable at all. So that's why I went with SLF in the first place, but now I really like the design and it's actually very cleverly thought out. So the whole cage itself is a lot more massive, still CFRP but more substantial. All of the threads are actually bonded in, or I would rather say molded in aluminum inserts, so you don't need to worry about stripping those, or the plastic into threads, not a good idea. Now that's gone. The hardware in terms of bolts is slightly larger, so that's also good. And this version, it's a team version, which I liked the look of. So it has the large CeramicSpeed logo here. I think that's pretty cool. And the other thing is it also has the Alpha wheels. Now, basically every other aftermarket pulley system uses machined aluminum pulley wheels with kind of a spoked design. These are also CFRP, so they're super quiet. They're just as quiet as the standard Shimano plastic pulleys. And they have this, what is called alpha disc, but yeah, the main point is that it's an labyrinth seal basically around the whole bearing of the pulleys. So this reduces the need for maintenance, and because of this you don't need to add thick grease into them, which I did previously for winter use, and ultimately it results in lower friction, and yeah, the shifting is just as flawless as with the standard cage. So yeah, previously I wasn't that fond of the OSPW from CeramicSpeed, but this new update is really where I think it should have been in the first place. So excellent. And also I just like the design of it, to be completely honest with you. It matches the aesthetic of the bike more than the previous one. And because of this reason, I'm really happy with it actually. I'm also planning to get the aero version for the time trial bike. So yeah, that's another change, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Still have the Garmin on there, by the way, but I already have my Wahoo back, obviously. But I'm just kind of switching between the two. There are some things that annoy me with Wahoo and some things that annoy me with Garmin. It would be really ideal if you could just merge the two systems together, but no one's doing this at this point. Maybe I really need to try the Hammerhead. I also have it somewhere on the shelf. So yeah, a few kind of tweaks for this bike. Certainly it now looks like a more cohesive package, not just some leftovers that were put together, which it was, to be honest, in the beginning. So yeah, no gold details on there, all black where it needs to be. So that's much nicer indeed. Yeah, perhaps it would look good with the black head logos, but we want to show off head because it's been a long time partner of mine and they're doing a really great job. So I want to keep the exposure on there, and it just looks, yeah, it matches with the CeramicSpeed logos on there. So yeah, we're still waiting some pretty exotic lightweight parts for this bike. Even though it's still very close to the UCI weight limit as it is, at exactly 7 kilos in this particular setup with everything except the computer. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it rides. Now I got a bit more used to the snappy feeling and the handling of it. So yeah, that was a big change compared to the 3T and the Factor. Those are a bit more stable, slower handling bikes. So yeah, on rough descents, yeah, I still need to get used to that, but every other aspect I absolutely love. So yeah, that's what it is right now, and I'll keep you updated about future changes and how do those work out on this bike. So stay tuned for future videos if you want to see the possible upgrades to that. And yeah, of course, if you want to build a high-end bike that suits your needs, and maybe have some custom touches to it, then of course we can do the same kind of process for you if you reach out to us via the description and the links in it. So yeah, I think that's all for today. Thanks for watching and see you next time.